Hi, Joe.
Hi, Fiora. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am good. Everything is going great. I've got no complaints. I bought a new bike. That's exciting.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. Well, it's not new. I bought it off of.
It's new to you.
Yeah, it's new to me. And I'm excited to get started. So I'm gonna go buy a tire pump and take it for a maiden voyage around the park. Listen, bike riding around here is serious. People, they take it very seriously, and I need to learn how to ride that bike before I actually take it out onto the roads. I am not trying to die.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, though, because that means probably people in cars also take it seriously as well, which is one of my fears about riding a bike in areas where there aren't a lot of people who ride bikes, and then the cars don't respect you, etc.
The cars here, they are very respectful of bike riders, pedestrians. This is a very bike-friendly city. I mean, the bike lanes are clearly marked, and very respected. So
that's ideal.
I feel safe about that. Yeah.
That's very cool. Well, today we have a conversation coming up, but before we get into that, what upcoming events and classes do we have?
So Saturday, July 24th at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard, which is noon Eastern, I have my workshop for intuitives. I'm only going to be teaching 2 classes live. This is one of them. And you can either attend it live, or you can request the recording. Same price. It's $22. And what I've done is I designed this workshop to deepen your understanding of your natural intuitive abilities, and then strengthen your ability to communicate with your spirit guides. So there's lots of cool things we'll do, learn techniques, how to ask for signs and get messages, how to initiate and develop a relationship with your spirit guides, and all that good stuff. So to register, you can go to the wokeakashic.com. It's under the classes and workshops tab, and click register, pay all through PayPal, and then you'll be sent a registration link, as well as afterwards you'll be sent the recording of the class.
Very cool.
What about you? Do you have anything coming up?
My shadow work classes are available now just for digital download.
Nice.
They are all on my website, which will be linked in the show notes.
Look at that, guys. You can learn from us. You can listen to us. And we have a fun opportunity coming up that we'll talk about later, where you can actually hang out with us.
Yes, that's in the works.
Teaser. We're going to cover an incredibly cool topic in today's episode. Fiora and I talked to Erika Buenaflor, author of Animal Medicine, a Curanderismo guide to shapeshifting, journeying, and connecting with animal allies. Now listen, her book gets into it. She explores animal spirit guides and mythologies, spirit journeying techniques, and shape-shifting practices. Okay, but not those of like ancient folklore. I realized I have already been practicing shape-shifting in some form, and I didn't even know it. She also talks about the gifts and powers each spirit animal embodies, as well as the realms they provide access to: the underworld, the middle world, and the upper world. It's just a very cool conversation. I loved this book. It taught me the benefits of spirit journeying and shape-shifting, and how to strengthen our connection with our spirit animal guides. And by now, we nerd out on a good spiritual connection convo over here at Esoterics. Fiora and I really hope you love this episode as much as we do, so let's get into it.
Erika Buenaflor is a curandera, a shaman with more than 20 years of experience. She studied with curanderics in Mexico, Peru, and Los Angeles. I met Erika when I first embarked on my journey to heal my ancestral trauma. I found her through her first book, The Cleansing Rites of Curanderismo, and upon realizing that she was in the LA area, I booked an in-person session with her. I feel truly honored to have Erika as a soul teacher. She's a healer of great integrity and a human who emits joy in the most beautiful way. Welcome, Erika.
Thank you, Fiora. Thank you, Joe. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's so exciting to talk to you.
Yes. Okay. So Erika, she has just written her fourth book, Animal Medicine, a Curanderismo Guide to Shapeshifting, Journeying, and Connecting with the Animal Allies. Now, Erika, my first question for you is, what motivated you to write the book?
I felt there were a lot of things, but I would say like what big impetus was. I didn't feel that there was like a combination of our culture and Mesoamerica, like in terms of the mythologies, how they were used by the indigenous peoples of the Americas, and what they meant to them, because it was just so diverse and so beautiful. I didn't feel that was expressed anywhere in any of the books. I mean, they were there,
Yes.
but like they were like buried in like a lot of academic, and a lot of those things they're nice, but they're a little heavy.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
Yep.
necessarily light reading, and it's not really done in a spiritual context.
But that's what I
It's about
loved.
what do these things mean to us now? How can they benefit us now? How can we tap into their gifts, their visions, and I felt like that needed to be done. That needed to be done. And then another thing is too is that so understanding the meaning and the symbolism of animals and the mythologies around that and what that meant for them and how we can use them, that energy and those understandings, and also the soul animating energies. And because there's certain soul animating energies that we can use to tap into the energies of the animals for for lack of better word, shape shifting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I definitely agree. I don't think I'd heard of it written. And like you said, sometimes you can find it like in academic ways, but it's so like, it's written in such words where I'm like, it goes over my head and I'm like, I don't know what this is.
Right. What I loved about your book, Erika, is that you do combine the science with the spiritual and make it very interesting. So the science actually supports the spiritual versus making it boring. Or I shouldn't say boring, but heavy.
Yeah. Heavy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heavy.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
And I think that's a theme, though, that you'll find with all of your books. They're written from an academic perspective, but also I love the combination of the spirituality and academia, but also in such a way where it's digestible.
Yep.
And not dumbed down by any means, but just I can read it and I can really get into it and it's enjoyable and I'm learning and I'm enjoying it as I'm learning, where sometimes I read some books and we've talked about this, my brain just shuts down.
Yeah. That's what makes a good book. It really does. Or a good topic, a good learning situation. Yeah. Erika, can we talk about the sacred energies tapping into the different worlds specifically for healing? Is this a good place to start talking about the topics in the book?
Sure. I mean, any places I'm open. Yeah. So one of the things that I talk about, because there's different ways that I talk about in terms of connecting with what we call in shamanic traditions, and they're applied also in Mesoamerica too, because a lot of scholars, a lot of really accessible scholars and really cool scholars, Lopez Austin being one of them, talks about the non-ordinary realms.
Yeah.
The underworld, middle world, and the upper world.
Yes.
And these non-ordinary realms, so for example, a lot of things that a lot of people are familiar more with in terms of it in soul retrieval purposes.
Yeah.
When a part of us, we have a trauma, our soul piece goes to these non-ordinary realms for medicine. So for example, in the upper world, if there's been like maybe our parents did something that we felt like they were a fallen hero or fallen heroine. Like we had like we were disappointed in them, like they did something that was just like that was traumatic. and we don't necessarily want to deal with it. We don't want to see it.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens a lot of times that we can find, and this is generally,
Yeah.
it varies, of course.
Sure.
We can find that soul piece in the upper world.
Okay.
So in the upper world, the medicines that are there are medicines of our ancestors, of guidance, of playfulness. That's usually what it's there. It's like that soul piece is like, I just want to play.
Yeah.
I don't want to deal with your nonsense. I just want to play. I want to be here. I'm gonna just hang out here, hanging out with the unicorns, hanging out with the flower world. Like it's so going to these, and then also it's also a lot of our ancestral guidance is there too.
Yeah.
So there's certain medicines that we can tap into, and how it relates to animals is because, a lot of the in Mesoamerica, what they did is they encoded understandings with animals in terms of what realm they were in. So, for example, birds that, because they could fly, they were very much connected to the upper world.
Okay.
Monkeys, because they were able to like go up trees and like hang off of trees, they were also connected with the upper world. And then there were some animals, for example, like ducks, that were associated with the upper world, middle world, and the underworld, and I'll get to that in a second. So it was an understanding of like, if you wanted to connect to the medicines of these different planes, whether it's for soul retrieval or for messages, for guidance, a reboost, a rejuvenation, for divination work, what a lot of shamans still do to this day, a lot of curanderos, what they do is they connect with these realms through animals.
Okay.
And one of the things that they can do is they either have a guide, an animal guide that they connect with, that they've been worked with, or they shapeshift as these animals.
Okay.
Very cool.
So that's the upper world. And then the middle world, for example, so the middle world, like, for example, if someone has had like something like a lot of past life memories,
Okay.
something that happened, like they just feel like something that was not, that needs to be resolved from a past life. So, or maybe it was like when they were younger, when they were younger, something, they moved, they made an abrupt move, or something happened that they need to go. So what often is done is they go to the middle world, because that's a space where you can go into different times. You work in different time spaces to stop and see, okay, what happened in that past life? What happened at that different point, time, and space, to figure out what happened. And also, too, when there's issues concerning, so there's the middle world there, and there's also issues concerning lack of abundance. And always having lack, because sometimes we have our parents or our families that were always in lack mentality.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like going to that and like saying, okay, where did that come from? And the middle world, what's really interesting is that the middle world is that a lot of animals that are connected with cyclical changes, that are created with abundance, like, for example, like rabbits, that can have a lot of babies.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of like animals that can have a lot of babies that are very much related to cycles, like bears, like that go and they sleep during the winter, they hibernate. So it's related to connecting to the middle world to find out when you're having issues with abundance or you want to see it in past life, you would go and you would connect with an animal from that middle world realm to get the medicine there. And in the underworld is very much connected to, it's not like a hell or anything, but it's very much connected to our shadow aspects.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's all the medicines of needing to see the things that we need to see, the bad habits that we need to let go of. It's the place where we get tested and we get tried. And there's all these different mythologies, from the Maya to the central Mexico, like, for example, in the Popol Vuh, where they have the hero twins. They have to go through all these levels of the underworld to actually pass those tests so they can come back out and come back rebirth and resurrected. So animals that can burrow, like even like the rabbit, that was also connected with the underworld. They're like insects or spiders that are in between spaces. Very much connected to the underworld as well. And then animals that can go into the water, because the water, like going in, it was believed that was also an entrance into the underworld. So when you need to work on our shadow aspects, we need to work on things that we are having difficulties, bad habits we are having a hard time letting go of. Or maybe, for example, a soul piece that had a trauma, whether it be like a sexual trauma or, a physical trauma, that usually a lot of times our soul pieces are hanging out in the underworld because they're seeking protection.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
seeking protection in the cave. They're seeking protection in those spaces. So you connect with an animal, and an animal takes you to these places and takes you to your soul pieces.
Very cool.
Wow, yeah, that makes so much sense. So is that how you came up with, so for anybody who doesn't know, so the book breaks down into the first part of the book, and then the last part of the book has the directory of the spirit animals. So is that how you came up with the 76 spirit animals that you have in there?
So the 76 animals I came up with, there was one that I left out, the mosquito. I just wanted to just mention that.
Okay.
Because I had a pact. I said, if you guys don't bite me when I'm here in the Yucatan, I'll include you in my book. They bit me. One of them bit me.
See, that's what they get, right? That's why they're no
Didn't get the
good.
memo.
Yep. That's the revenge against the mosquitoes.
No, you're not going in my book. So
That's
So
funny.
it was. It's basically I focused on those because those were the ones that were most prominent. In the codices, in their writings, in their artwork, and some of them they had a lot of conflations and meanings. They were like zoomorphic, right?
Okay.
But they were the most prominent. That's how I looked at it. It's like that they were the ones that kept coming up
Okay.
in the recipes because a lot of times too they also actually used in their medicines. They used it was connected to like if someone was like had a stiffness, there were centipedes in it. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
That
So
makes
and
sense.
there's actually medicinal properties in these things too.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
That is so cool. Can you talk about when you knew that you had to be a curandera full time?
Oh wow. There were a lot of different points. I mean, I had one of my first mentors, Don Tomas, when I was still in law school. When I told him I was going to go to law school and I was going to become an attorney and I was going to be doing social justice and la la la, he looked at me and he began laughing. He's like, "You're not going to like it," and I'm like, okay. He's like, you're a curandera, like your great grandmother. You're a curandera, and I was like, okay, that's really nice, but I'm going to be an attorney. And then I was incredibly stubborn, and I mean I was 5 years old and I was doing my first limpia. I mean, it was like in me. It was
Yeah.
in me. I knew these things, but I was just like, it's those things of, I heard about it in my family. We talked about it, but it was something that no, you're supposed to go to school. You have a different path. And it was until when I had my accident in 2005. I slipped and I woke up being airlifted, and 3 days later I was told I had a skull fracture, a brain hemorrhage, left AC dislocated, 2 vertebrae in my back fractured. I completely shattered my coccyx. Left leg I fractured in 3 places. Right leg, knee down. All of my bone shattered, came out of my heel. And
Wow.
then 6 weeks later, I was told I had severe osteomyelitis, which is an infection in the bones. When they put my bones back into my right heel, they didn't do a culture. So they put it back with the bacteria. So that bacteria, 6 weeks later, began eating away at my bones.
Ugh.
And they did 3 debridements, try to get it out. And they told me all these horror stories, that I was never going to be able to, I was going to be in pain the rest of my life. That was for certain because my coccyx is shattered and there's nothing they could do about it. And if I was going to walk, and they didn't know if I was going to be able to walk again because I was in a wheelchair for almost a year. If I was going to walk again, it was going to be with some kind of assistance because I lost half the bones in my ankle, my right ankle. So yeah, sorry, and the third day of when they told me all these things, that's when I just was like, okay, yes. I embraced my don. 100%. Because I knew if I didn't, I was going to be handicapped the rest of my life.
Wow. Very cool.
That's when I finally flipped the script. I just didn't know how I was going to make that manifest into what I was doing, how I was going to bring that into being.
Yeah.
But that's when I decided it's like, okay, yes.
That was the
this
moment.
This is me. This is who I am. I'm no longer doubting it. Yes. Let's and I was seeing clients before that too. I was always doing those things. As an attorney, I was always researching, I was taking classes, I was still mentoring. I just didn't know how it was going to manifest, what it was going to look like.
Yeah. So did you heal yourself physically?
did I heal myself? I mean,
Yeah.
I feel like it was all the teachings
Yeah.
that I did, I put into practice, and definitely I got guidance from my ancestors and my
Yeah.
guides, and um, absolutely, I wasn't, like I mentioned, I was in a wheelchair for almost a year, but
Yeah.
after not walking for almost a year, I walked with a completely normal gait in less than 2 weeks.
Oh, that's amazing.
But I put into practice everything that I had learned.
Yeah.
Because one of my first two, it was Tomas and Barbara. Barbara was a sobadera. So like she taught me, it's an equivalent. It's like what we know as acupressure points, but it's also she taught me about how to clear that, like the energy there, like where it was stuck, how to move it, how to do it, and we had similar practice too in Mesoamerica with mudras, hand postures.
Uh-huh.
We also, breath work was also very important to us too. The essence of breath and ceremony. So that was one of the things that she taught me, how to move energy, how to heal energy. So I was learning all those things before my accident.
Yeah. Yeah.
My accident, it was like, okay, I'm going to put these into practice.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's, yeah, it was that or be in pain the rest of my life.
Wow.
Yeah. You just relinquished your old self and just, this is me.
Yeah, I was still stubborn. Still, there were still aspects where I was stubborn. But I've become less stubborn and more humble. I'd like to think. I'd like to say.
So I loved the part of the book on etheric shape shifting. That was probably my favorite chapter. And I realized excitedly that I've kind of been doing this to a certain degree, right? So can you tell us about the ancient Mesoamerican practices of shape shifting? Can you talk about that?
So, so some of the, a lot of, especially the Maya vases. If you ever go to, it's Kerr, and then the next word vase, VACE, VASE, I'm sorry, S like vase, .com, and that would be one word. But if you just Google Kerr vase, you can see a lot of the imagery of the Maya in ceremony and the shape shifting that was going on, and like they're basically like zoomorphic. There's all kinds of things going on. With also like seeing ancestors and seeing themselves as animals and mirrors and reflections of that. So there were a lot of different things, and so we know, and also when the missionaries, they came here, that's how we know a lot of the information in writing, right? When they came here, they had, like the Maya, they had at least just the Yucatec Maya alone, they had approximately 12 different kind of shapeshifters for different kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
And then and it's still common, like there's still like stories of it too, like, and I'll go into that too. My mentors talked about it too. And in central Mexico with the Mexica, a lot of different peoples in central Mexico, they had a lot of different understandings for shapeshifters, and depending on the days that you were born in terms of what you could shapeshift into and what you could do that and what that meant too, because you can also have different guides that like if you were born on a certain day, for example, you had a coessence, an animal coessence, that you shared a soul energy with an animal.
Oh, wow.
So that was an animal that you could join, in the sense where, because that's also another kind of shapeshifting where you can actually go into the animal of that. You can go into the body of that animal and become one with that animal. I wouldn't recommend it if that's not your coessence, because you may piss off an animal and it may shove you out.
My grandfather used to tell a story about how he caught a girl who had shapeshifted into an owl so that she could go to the fiesta in the like the little town, and he saw her flying over, and then he waited until the crowd receded as they were all walking home, and then he did this whole thing. I don't know, it was like took his shirt off, put it on backwards, got a knife out, put it in the ground, and then said the Lord's Prayer backwards or something, and then she fell to the ground, and he warned her, like, be careful, like, I'm not going to hurt you, but somebody else could hurt you. You need to be, because she was a young girl, a young, like, teenage girl. And she's like, I'm sorry, I won't do it again. Let me go. And I promise I'll pay you back. She's like, I don't want anything. I just want you to be safe. Like, people will hurt you. And he let her go. And I just thought that was a crazy story I'd heard, like, my whole life.
Not so crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's, I would say, like, all of my mentors, with the exception of one, initially when I would ask them, because I was having dreams. I mean, this is something that I knew of and I had heard stories of too. I asked them about, like, their understanding of shapeshifting. Mm-hmm. During my periods when I was doing more mentoring than anything. And one of them, Don Fernando, he was a lot more open with me. Mm-hmm. And I remember, asking him, and he started telling me a story about that there was his wife didn't like it so much, though, because his wife was in the kitchen with us and she was cleaning. And he started saying a story how there was a witch who was very envious of the wife. And actually came in and tried to strangle. Try to strangle like was it cat, like came in as a black cat. And like jumped on the bed and tried to strangle the wife.
Yeah.
And he actually got her out.
Oh my God.
And I looked at and it was just, I looked at him and he was like, and the wife got really nervous and she like pushed us off the subject, like no, like, she didn't want to talk about things like no, like like asked me like, are you gonna go get this? I was like, okay, but those stories are still around. Mm-hmm. Those stories are still very much around in terms of the shape-shifting, and the missionaries, they documented a lot of different stories. It wasn't just physical shape-shifting, but they also, just the one kind of physical shape-shifting where we turn into one body, but it was also the stories of bilocation.
Yeah.
Where we can be in two places at one time. We can be in our body and we can also be running around as an animal. Mm-hmm. There's one where there was a gentleman who was walking, and they were saying that this man was killing him. He was killing him, and then his friends were like, "Who's killing you? Who's killing you? What's going on?" Mm-hmm. And then he just like dies right there in front of them. Oh, and he tells them it's over here at the ranch. They're killing me. So then they go over to the ranch, and the owner's like, "We killed a fox." And the same way that the fox died was the same way this gentleman died.
Wow.
And they also have a lot of stories because they wrote these things down, and the missionaries were not necessarily open to these kind of things. So, I mean, that there was something that had to be like pretty blatant that got a lot of people's attentions to start documenting these things that were going on.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, so it's we know that there was a lot of different kinds of shape-shifting, and one of the things that a couple scholars and a few from UNAM recently, the University of Mexico City, they have documented and translated a lot of the writings and a lot of what looks like in terms of the shape-shifting and understanding the sacred energies that we use for shape-shifting. And there's mentions of it too, because when they were interviewing the missionaries, when they were interviewing them, one of the things, for example, that was understood, like the tonali, our soul energy, the energy that can leave, that it was easier for someone who that shared a soul energy with an animal that could shapeshift into that animal. Mm-hmm. And that could be like etheric shapeshifting, astral shapeshifting, and I'll talk about the different ones, but it's easier for them, and also for physical shapeshifting too, if they had a high enough amount of soul energy. And and another was the hyoro, our sense of will, which was located in the abdomen region, where our solar plexus are our power, our will, to will something into being, to shapeshift into any kind of anything. Any kind of animal, whether you connected to them on a soul level or not. And then there was also the Teyolia, where a lot of performers, and I call them performers, but they were definitely shamans, curanderics. They would, in a lot of the calendrical performances, they would, and they would be in their full regalia and dancing, and they would begin shape-shifting into different animals, into different deities, as they were moving, as they were performing. And it was believed that they were radiating this energy from the Teyola, which is the Sacred Heart.
Okay.
So it's a combination of using all those animating energies to shapeshift, and also it's also important for us, like for manifestation purposes, to keep high energies, to do a lot of activities to keep, because those are actual soul energies that we all have.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's something that can help us to manifest, to bring something into being, to heal ourselves. All these things of tapping into and learning how to increase those soul animating energies, whether it's for shapeshifting. And then for shapeshifting, animals, they have a very high immune system. Most animals, especially out in the wild.
Uh-huh.
So that's another reason to, for a good reason to, why you would want to connect to an animal. You know, or also a feeling of being free.
Yeah.
You know, allowing, like free of any inhibitions, to go and let yourself on a new, like a full moon, like go and, you know, whether it's etherically, you know, etherically being, you know, it's like a band of energy around the body.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's a band of energy. So the one that's closest to the body is the etheric body.
Mm.
And the etheric body, that includes the emotional, the mental, and of course the etheric being the first one, right? And when we allow ourselves to like see ourselves an imprint of that animal, and then we feel into how that animal feels, we start allowing ourselves to feel as that animal. We start thinking ourselves, like if we're thinking of a bird, you know, what it is to fly, and just that freedom of that, and being in that, and becoming that animal. It's we become that animal. We start connecting etherically.
Yeah.
And it's really, really beautiful to allow ourselves to give ourselves that freedom, that sense of connection. And it's a beautiful way to just feel and experience life again.
It really is. Why I realized that I do etheric shapeshifting when I was reading your book was because anytime I journey, my animal is panther or jaguar, and every single time I journey with my spirit animal, I feel like a cat, like a sleek, very, deliberate, powerful, cunning, very sexual, very, just a badass cat.
Sounds like a cat. Sounds like a
Yes,
feline, yes.
yes, and that energy is what what I use to then sort of help get messages and guidance in other areas of my life where I can be more assertive or deliberate, that sort of thing. And so when I read that, I was really, really excited by what I was reading because it was something that I could relate to, like, I've experienced this. So
Yes, and I mean, it's something that we can all do in our meditations.
Yes.
To tap into that.
yeah.
And the more and more we work up, for example, like with we do tantric breath work. You know, we start learning how to work with our energies and moving the energies with our body. Then we can actually do that in the astral level too. You know, where we can actually, a lot of times we can go into these different non-ordinary realms and retrieve items from them, like physical items from them.
Oh, what?
And
What?
go a little bit, yeah, go a little bit deeper. And it just, the more and more we build up that energy, the more and more we can access the gifts in these spaces and
there-
allow ourselves to be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, there are 4. You have etheric, astral,
Joining.
joining, and then bilocation. Yes.
Yeah, and then
Yes.
physical. Yes.
In physical, yeah.
So, yeah, and then there's the joining. The joining is something that I recommend. It's like when you go into an animal, it's something that I recommend that unless you're really connected to that animal, they would find it intrusive. They might kick you out.
Okay. I think you've mentioned before too that when we do find our animal that we connect to not necessarily tell everyone. Is that what? Is that true?
So that's with the animal coessence.
Okay.
Because it's believed that animal has a part of our soul energy.
Uh-huh.
And there's actually a lot of imagery too that's shown in the Maya vases, where a lot of brujeria, like, just it was just done like, taking people's soul energies.
Oh, I see. Okay. Okay.
So you would actually capture that animal to get a piece of that person's soul energy link them to that and like manipulate him in that way.
Okay. Okay.
But that's a coessence, right? That's an animal coessence.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. I'm not worried about our listeners trying to do that because I don't think they're qualified.
It's something that I've never honestly like looked at I've never functioned from this space of fear, like oh my god, I'm going to be scared of that. But at the same time, when my mentor told me that, I'm like, okay, no digo nada. I'm not going to say anything. Just in case. Just in case. I don't need to test that theory.
Doesn't hurt. Doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Just in case.
Do you have a case of a client that has worked with their animal guide and it helped them with their healing journey? Like an example of that?
Well, yeah, I mean, I got permission to talk about this one,
Okay.
and I'll share it. I shared it in my book. Is one of the ladies that I was working with, and I love this story. What really came to my heart was that this lady was from a totally different culture. She was beautiful lady, Armenian. She's Armenian. And I was telling when she came in, she was very depressed. She had a really bad car accident.
Okay.
And she had a back injury. She wasn't able to work, and she already before the accident she was kind of living a rinse and repeat life. Going to work, coming home, going to work, coming home. Like it was just she wasn't doing anything for herself, connecting for herself, and nothing like that. So after the accident, it just got worse. Because now she was in pain. Now she wasn't able to go to work. Now it was worse. So one of my clients referred her to me. And my other client who was also, she was also Armenian, she swore by me. And I think so that gave her a little bit more trust. And one of the things that she was freaked out about was that she told me that she kept having dreams and visions of owls.
Oh, okay.
And in Armenian culture, and when you hear an owl, you see an owl, it's like there's impending death.
Oh, yeah. That's what happens when you Google stuff sometimes.
Right.
You could be very misled.
So I was just like, oh no, and I said, well, there's another alternative too, that and I started telling her the stories of the owls, that the owl was actually one of the messengers of the underworld, and that there's medicine in the underworld too. That this is an opportunity for her to take time out to reflect on what have been her patterns. So I encouraged her to start doing just basically restorative yoga, like soft yoga, to help her with her pain. I showed her how to do breath work, and one of the things too that I also had her do was I had her do an altar with an owl.
Okay.
Yeah.
I helped her get through, like, I just like I told her more stories, and I gave her some more stories about the owl, and then I told her about some of the stories from different mythologies, and she was open to it. She was open to it because I think she was referred to me because she was a little bit like, she was scared.
Yeah.
So she made the altar, and she even took a picture of it too. She got a picture. She put just all this, like, everything that she can find on owls. She made this beautiful altar. And connecting to something that was beyond work, to something that was beyond the rinse and repeat of life, but restoring her faith in something other than work, than just like the mundane.
The mundane.
That, like, the next time I saw her, like, I saw a spark in her eye.
I love that.
And I saw her excited. And I started her telling me, like, she was actually excited about her dreams and some of the things that she was seeing. And she started saying, like, well, I'm managing my pain. It was just a very different person.
Yeah.
I mean, there was still shifts from there, but it was a different person.
Yeah.
And then, she also had, she also had a lawsuit too against, what was happening, because the insurance company got involved and they weren't paying her out and all this stuff. So, helped her with that, and I guided her to do, like, a velación. It's just a candle work on top of her altar, and to write a petition, and to connect with her owl spirit, and to keep working on that. Because I also mentioned that owls were also connected with justice, and ensuring justice too. And that's something that it's also in Greek and Roman mythologies too, with the owl and Pallas Athena and Minerva, and there's all these beautiful understandings, and it's also connected to Mesoamerica as well too. That the owls help you to see things that you need to see, so you can actually persevere and move through things. So she contacted me one time, and she was freaking out because she told me that she had just got notified of a deposition.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, the insurance company had gotten an attorney and this and that, and she was doing well.
Mm-hmm.
She was doing well, and then she freaked out about that a little bit. And then she had told me, because she came for a session, she told me that one night at night she actually saw an owl fly over her, and this is after she got the notice of the deposition.
Okay. Uh-huh.
And she told me, she said, Erica, I felt like everything was going to be okay when I saw the owl. I know that there was a message that everything was going to be okay. And when she was driving to the deposition, and this is something, omen, unusual, I don't know. She was driving to the deposition, and this is in downtown She was driving from the 110 to the 10. She said that she saw a beautiful white owl. And she swears to me it was an owl. She's like, no, it wasn't an owl, Erika. It was an owl. It was an owl. It was an owl. I know I saw an owl. She said she saw a white owl fly over her as she was driving to the deposition, and the case settled that day.
Wow.
Settled in her. It was like she was happy with it. It was like it was done. It was closed, and she actually during that process she lost 15 pounds. She was happy. She was doing yoga. She was actually had connecting to faith. Spirituality, connecting with and now she was more interested in learning more about animals, and just a different person.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's a beautiful story. I love that. Yeah, that's amazing how when you just connect, and you're connecting with things outside of yourself, and you're doing something good for yourself, and how that changes everything around you. That's beautiful.
So what if somebody doesn't know what their spirit animal is? How do they connect with it? Or is it something that you work with different animals at different times, depending on the challenges that you're experiencing, the medicines that you're asking for, or the different worlds that you travel to?
So, I mean, the thing is animals can court us.
Oh.
Animals can court us, and it's up to us to say, yes, I accept your courting, and we can court animals too. One really good way is if there's an animal we do want to work with, that we put a picture of them, or we put something of them that represents them on our altar.
Okay.
That's something that, when I remember, there was one time where I was at work. This is back when I was still working as an attorney a long time ago. There was a gentleman, one of the junior partners found out something that wasn't good that happened to me. And there was this weird animosity. I don't know what it was, but there was a weird animosity. Mm-hmm. And he was actually laughing hysterically. And right when we all heard a big thump, boom, the whole building shook. And we're like, what the heck was that, And apparently, and I had been noticing that there was a crow that was courting me, but apparently a crow did a kamikaze right into his office window.
Crows, don't mess with crows.
So I'm like, I accept your courting. I accept.
Thank you.
Please and thank you.
I love that.
So I mean, it just there's one, but a big thing is definitely to open up to them courting us and us courting them. Mm. Because if there's whatever it is, it's really that simple. It's really, really that simple. To put an image of them, light some copal, connect with them, and we might see them in a dream. We might see them in the physical if they're an animal that is around.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So they're typically animals that people connect with or feel connected to or have some affinity toward or something like that. Okay.
You'll find too, that it's interesting how there's other mythological animals that'll sometimes pop up. My son keeps talking about axolotls.
Yes.
Yeah, he keeps talking about them, and it's in a video game. And I'm like, really? This is like in a mainstream video game now? I'm like, that's cool. And then I had to tell him, like, this is where it comes from and give him the history. Like, this is our culture, just so you know. Like, this is, So, but I think it's cool. There's a lot of that in there too.
Yeah, yeah. Feathered serpents. That was also something that was really, really big. It's zoomorphic in the understanding of that, and even like the deers that were connected to like the upper world, that were like connected to stars, and a lot of different mythologies and powers that were connected to the animals in that way. There's also like omens too. Like last night I had this freaky dream. I woke up and I told my husband Miguel, I was like, I was so bothered by it because I love gummy bears. Like, or like, they were like jellies, like they were like these strawberry jellies. And I was having this dream that I was visiting these people who, they lived in a mansion, and their mansion was infested by rats.
Oh. Oh, no.
It was really nice, but it was infested with rats. So I remember it was one of those things that I put my stuff down, and I had these really delicious. I was really excited about eating them. I just remember, like, when it comes to food, if somebody tries to eat my food, I'm not a happy camper.
Right. Same. Same.
Can relate.
I don't like you. You don't eat my food.
Yeah.
And so I put my stuff down, and I remember it was like I was seeing all these rats scurrying around. And I said, "Oh, my gummy bears! They're gonna eat my gummy bears, my jellies." So I went over there, and there's this fat rat that's in there and looks at me and like almost like goes na 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 na, like does this little thing and like
you.
Runs away with my gummy bears.
Taunts you. He's taunting
Get your ass back here, Ratatouille.
So it's basically like, it was like a message that I got, like, very clear. It's like, be more, just be aware of where you're putting your stuff down, like what's going on. Be aware of that, and it's I don't really necessarily, I'm like, okay, that was a cool message. I really, I honor the rat. But I don't know if I would say that's necessarily my spirit guide.
Sure. Yeah, sure.
So I was not happy with them eating my gummy bears.
Yeah. I know in Chinese culture they have like the years, and there's a year of the rat and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm a tiger, and I'm like, I'm so glad that I'm not one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, imagine if I was like the year of the pig, or like the year or the boar, and I'm like, I think I would be mad. I'm like,
well, I am the year of the cock, so there's that. Yeah.
Well, sorry.
There is that.
Okay. One more question that I had for you was about maybe people who who don't have Mesoamerican ancestry or aren't directly related to the culture. How can they use these practices or techniques? Should they?
That's a really good question. So, I really feel that these are beautiful earth-based practices that I mentioned this too, is for us not to be dogmatic about it.
Yeah.
And I'll give an example that I feel is really relatable to this, because I feel these practices should be open to everyone. And it's nice also when people give props.
Yes.
That's ideal. So
yes.
There's the issues with like appropriation. Appropriation is actually very common, very, very common. Even in Mesoamerica, it was so common. And I'll give one example too. A lot of people identify themselves as Toltec, or having like Toltec philosophy or understandings. But the thing is, with the Toltec, they were around in the 10th and 11th century, and unless their ancestors did, they were in a time machine. There's an appropriation.
Yeah.
But basically an understanding that, for example, the Central Mexico, the Mexica, they came from the Southwest. They came into the valley of Central Mexico. They were connected. They were not related to the Toltec. They were not related to Teotihuacan.
Mm-hmm.
But they took over one of the cities that was known, that was the capital of the Toltec, Tula.
Okay.
And they actually started incorporating a lot of their traditions, a lot of their deities, a lot of the practices. They started, and that was, I mean, but the thing is, they gave it props
Okay.
and they
Okay.
honored them
Mm-hmm.
and they give thanks to them. And that was straight out appropriation, but it was in a way that was respectful. It was a
Okay.
way that was loving. So for example, if someone says that they're Toltec now, it's yes, it's Toltec, but it's Toltec through the Mexica or maybe one of the tripartite states. It's there's nothing wrong with the appropriation of things. I think it becomes problematic if maybe people just ignore like where it comes from.
Or
Right.
exploit it,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. Then it's problematic.
Yeah, that thing that's when it becomes problematic. That's when it's like, okay, now you're going into misappropriation.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but definitely these things definitely have them open to everyone. These are our earth-based practices,
Yeah.
that we all can come together and share and learn about and grow from.
Yeah, I agree, and I love that explanation. When we put all these restrictions on, practices or even, hair and clothing, it gets a little bit too control-y for me. But also, we don't get the benefit of sharing such beautiful practices and cultures and
Well, and it's also not just
diversifications.
that, but it's also not I'm sorry.
No.
It's also now allowing us to dismantle the colonizers' tools.
Yeah.
Because that is
Yes.
straightforward. Like these are the colonizers' tools of telling someone what they can or cannot practice and what is accessible and what is not accessible. And us taking that dogmatic approach is not allowing us to dismantle those
Mm-hmm.
tools.
Yeah.
And we need to be critical of that.
Yep.
We
That's a
need to
great
break that
point.
down
That is
as a
right.
process of decolonization and decolonizing these beautiful practices.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I think that's all the questions we had for you. Is there anything else you wanted to end with? Any message or anything you had on in your heart?
Yeah, there's actually one more that I do have. If those are who are going to be, especially those who are in the LA area, and if you're not, on the 1st of August, I'm going to have a free event that people can access online as well. The link is on my website, realizeyourbliss.com. And I'm going to be going through and taking people through a journey, through a trance journey with breath work, with sound, basically a sound bath, and taking people to a journey into the non-ordinary realms, and also going over animal medicine, but actually so they can experience it too. It's going to be it's all the information on our realizeyourbliss.com.
We'll link it all in the show notes for sure.
Yeah. So that's something that's awesome, because I'm like, I just wanted to make it like accessible, like everyone, and you never, it's going to be there recorded so you can watch it anytime, or
Wonderful.
so people have those tools accessible.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
That
Yeah. Oh,
is.
I did want to mention, I know your book is available like on Amazon and everything, but I know it's specifically available through Inner Traditions, Amazon, and Barnes and Noble. I like to encourage people to buy from Inner Traditions whenever they can. So you're supporting a small bookseller. If you have to order on Amazon, do what you got to do. But the book is available on all those. I encourage people support the small booksellers. That's
That's important. Support small business. That's very important.
Yeah, actually, when I signed up with them too, because actually that's where I bought your first book from. When you sign up with them, they send you coupons, and it ends up being much more affordable than Amazon. So just a tip.
I love that. All right.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you so much, Erika, for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank
That was so much
you.
fun.
Yeah, it
Yes,
was. It
yes.
was. Thank you again.
It was wonderful to talk with you. It's wonderful to meet you.
Likewise, thank you.
Fiora, during our talk with Erika, there were several words that came up that our listeners might not understand what they mean. I don't know, by our listeners, I mean me. So can I run these past you, and can you tell everybody what they? Okay. So the first word that came up is limpia.
Yes. So limpia literally means cleaning, like to clean. So it's a cleansing. So there's a few ways to do it. So one of the common ways to do it, you can do a limpia like a smudge kind of thing with herbs in a smudge. You can do like a feather fan and like sweeping, which we also call that a barrida, which literally means sweeping. Another way to do a limpia is with an egg.
I've heard of that one. I think you told me about that one.
Yes, so that's what limpia means.
Okay, very cool. Thank you. Okay, the next word was sobradera.
Sobadera. Yeah, so a sobadera or sobadero, that's just the male or female, or sobanderix. But sobaderismo is the actual practice. So what that is just healing, like massage. It's like massage therapy, acupressure. It's literally like putting the hands on somebody and massaging them to heal.
Oh, that's cool. I love that. And that's a beautiful word too. All right. I've heard of this word, brujeria.
Yes, brujeria. So brujeria is just witchcraft in Spanish.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I know what that is. All right. And then the last word that I was unsure of, Erika mentioned the Toltec. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that is?
Yeah. So the Toltec they were a Mesoamerican culture. They existed, like she said, it was a long time ago. So the chronology starts in the 1900s. I'm sorry, in the 900s.
Oh, so ancient culture.
So it's super ancient. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. All right. Hey, cool. I love that. I know that our listeners love learning new things. And as a 4 in my chart, you have a 4 in your chart as well. That makes us both the teacher and the student. So, thanks for teaching.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to share and review our podcast. Sharing episode links with your friends, families on the social networks is key to the success of Esoterics and helps us to get the word out and grow our audience. And hey, leaving a review on Apple could snag you a $50 voucher for one of our metaphysical events. And we have some pretty cool things in the works.
We really do. Stay mystical, stay magical, and be ready to do it again next week when we will be talking about secret societies.
Now, you can find us on all the socials under Esoterics Podcast, and be sure to join our Facebook group, The Woke Akashic, to hear firsthand about our classes and events, as well as get intuitive development tips, free meditations, and so much more.
Thanks so much, guys. Have a great week.
Thank you. All right, bye.